don't know about you, but I love July 4th and I love Thanksgiving. Those are our American holidays, and they're amazing. How many of us enjoy those more than almost any holiday? You're raising your hand, you're wrong. Jewish holidays are still better. However, my wife and some of her friends decided to plan a community parade at Hull Park for July 4th, a great event. They did a masterful job. I was mentioning to the friend of mine that my wife and some friends were planning an event. I didn't say parade, I said event at the park at July 4th. And what do you think the first thing she said was? She said, "Oh my gosh, not another protest? Haven't we had enough of those?" Isn't that true sometimes when we think about it? We know we need to protest, we know we need to speak out, but we also sometimes get a little tired and just want to enjoy ourselves. It's like me getting tired of my kids tattling all the time. "Mom, he's being mean to me again. Mom, he took my candy. Mom, he's keeping me from watching TV." Finally, my wife had to sit down and say, "Listen, kids, stop tattling on your dad. That's enough." For some, the good old days have ended, just like the days of walking with our friends through our favorite video store in the 80s and 90s. Of course, Blockbuster. What a great time. I think this feeling is summed up by the actual last ever Blockbuster movie rented from the company on November 9th, 2013. The last ever video rented by Blockbuster was This Is the End. That was the movie. For some, Judaism has become anti-Semitism. But nothing could be farther from the truth, because we live here in America and we thrive. And we have thrived here for so long, especially compared to the rest of the world. My dad lived during the Depression and World War II, and he thrived. Out of the blue, one day I asked him, as a kid, "Did you lock your doors growing up for fear of all the issues of anti-Semitism?" And he said, as Jews, they felt so safe that, like everybody else in their hometown, they didn't even have locks on their doors growing up. Isn't that amazing? Apparently they got robbed a lot, but that's a whole other thing. But of course it was the Depression, they didn't have any good stuff, so it wasn't really a big deal. I continue to experience today more incredible moments in America than ever before. Incredible moments in our community and outside. I'll give an example. I went to Sophia Center's bat mitzvah. She did a beautiful job, obviously. But at the party that night, her and her friends are all in middle school. What do you think they did the whole night? They played with all of the little kids to make sure the little kids had a good time. We're talking ages 6, 5, and younger. And that's what they did the whole night. It was amazing. And when my son and daughter spoke about their birthday parties, who do you think was the first person they both wanted to invite? Sophia Center. As many of you know, the land near our two 18th century cemeteries, if you didn't know, we are responsible for two 18th century cemeteries, two of the oldest Jewish cemeteries in America. And the land next to it is in the process of possibly being sold. And many worried about the encroachment on these old cemeteries and the effects of building something next to it. And so the people in charge of these cemeteries met with the builder, and what do you think they did? They compromised. And so many of us attended the city council meeting in which the council voted on the proposal, and I could not believe my eyes. Every single member of the city council not only approved the compromise, but each one, including the mayor, took several minutes. And remember, this is a meeting for everybody. Almost the whole meeting seemed to center on this. They took several minutes to compliment our willingness to compromise. It seems like they don't see this very often at their meetings. As a Jewish community, we have a stellar reputation, and we have acculturated into America in every way possible. Even our last names no longer speak of our religion. As I mentioned on Rosh Hashanah, Norman Jewison, the director of Fiddler on the Roof, wasn't Jewish. There are actually only 3 indigenous Jewish names. They are Cohen, Levi, and Israel. And let me tell you, there are plenty of non-Jews out there who have those names, which would not have been the case several hundred years ago. The only thing we know for sure about Jewish names is that if you're Jewish and your last name is Israel, you're probably not going to name your daughter Beth. Waiting for the rest of the people to get that one. Yeah. As with other American religious institutions, we've welcomed in our community interfaith couples, members of the LGBT community, and anybody else who wants to join us, and they have enhanced our community in ways beyond our imagination. And yes, we have issues here in America. There is some anti-Semitism. We spoke about that. But most of the issues we have are the same issues other Americans have. We worry about AI interfering with our lives and how the sermons recently written by AI rabbis are a lot better than mine. So I just need to make it to retirement before they take over and you see a robot up here. We see that our children and that we struggle with screen time. It's estimated that 50 out of the 58 hours we have free during the week are spent in front of a screen. These are the things we struggle with because we're proud American Jews, and we struggle just like everybody else. But there's one area in which we struggle more than any other Americans of faith, and it's been documented time and again. Torah, the land of Israel, community, and God, or the spiritual, are the 4 areas of Jewish faith. When we think about Torah, we can check that off because Torah teaches us to behave as good human beings. Isn't that what we all do? Isn't that why we're here on Yom Kippur? As we read in Or HaChaim, a person should always prefer to live in a neighborhood of lions rather than a city of evildoers. We give of our time and money freely to our community and to the outside world. We are dedicated to being good people. Now, some people say in the area of Torah that keeping kosher belongs in that category as well, which works for all of us here who love to eat that delicious Savannah kosher shrimp. And the second category, we support Israel, even if we don't always agree with its decisions. Israel is the only country in the world today that has more trees than it did 100 years ago. It's the only country in the world in which the number of trees increases on a yearly basis. Why? Look around the room. Thank you to us for putting those coins in those JNF boxes when we were growing up, and now Israel in many cases has too many trees. Category 3, community. According to the most reliable Jewish journals, the best Jewish community in the world officially is found at Congregation Mikveh Israel. I can't pronounce it. I actually mean the best looking, of course. We come from all walks of life, and we really, truly support each other. But there's one category in which we struggle, as I mentioned, and that is the 4th one, God, the spiritual. For all of our successes here in America, we still have trouble finding that spiritual connection. Martin Buber, the great 20th century philosopher, teaches us it's more important to be good people than believe in God, which I agree with. But sometimes I want to find that spiritual connection as we read throughout what we see in our literature today. And quite frankly, in the history of Judaism, in this great country of ours, we may suffer with the spiritual more than any other time in our history, going back to the time of Moses. According to Nahum Sarna, the great sage, the tabernacle was built as assurance of the continual existence of an avenue of communication with God, some visible, tangible symbol that God remained always present in our midst. We created this beautiful space here so we could speak to God, we could be with God, we could pray alongside friends and families. This sanctuary is amazing. It's ranked as one of the 12 most beautiful Jewish sanctuaries in the world recently, the only one on the list in America. It is beautiful, and it's a great place to bring the spiritual. The number one question I'm asked from my friends who are clergy: how does it feel to lead services in this magnificent building? But how do we find the spiritual connection outside of this building where we spend most of our time? And I'm using the royal we here because literally I'm here every day. So a minister friend of mine preached, "I believe my soul came from God, but I am not homesick." We are not homesick either. We don't want to go to the next world yet. But I personally don't want to wait until the next world to find meaning and purpose in my life. We remain so busy as Americans that it's really difficult to search for more. It's almost like God went into hiding when our ancestors stepped off the boat in Savannah in 1733. And miraculously, the sages teach this issue to us as we read in the book of Isaiah, "Verily, you are a God that hides yourself, O God of Israel, the Savior." As a Jewish American, I do believe that God hides from us. But I believe it's during a game of hide and seek. And let me tell you, God is not a very good hider. God is as bad at hiding as my two children. Whenever I enter the bedroom during a game of hide and seek, I see two moving, talking blobs on my bed under the sheets who inevitably hear me come in and scream, "We are not in the bedroom, we are in the kitchen." That is how bad God is at hiding. In America, we have everything we want at our fingertips, but if we want to find God, we have to search a little. Do we see the face of God in our children's questions? Do we feel the connection here in our sanctuary? Jonah, in our Yom Kippur reading later today, ran away from God and ended up in a whale. Are we running away searching for the whale, or do we avoid appreciating the blessings we have in our lives? And they are amazing. Are we too centered on our hobbies and our activities and work and money and TV to thank God for our blessings and for truly giving us so much? And the famous Hasidic saying, the Kutzer Rabbi once asked, "Where does God dwell?" To which he replied, "Wherever you let him." But what if we don't believe in God? That sounds like a terrible thing as Jews. What does Judaism say if we don't believe in God? I'm not going to ask for hands here. Judaism says, welcome aboard. We should all have access to this spirituality, even if we don't believe in God. Some of the greatest philosophers in our religion, including Ahad Am, may not have believed in God, but they believed in something more important: the essential nature of connection and commitment to the Jewish world. Mordechai Kaplan founded an entire movement, the Reconstructionist movement, based on the idea that God is not an entity, but just simply the natural order of the universe. So whether we believe God is an entity or nature or that feeling of goodness and understanding of what we're supposed to do, or if we don't believe in God at all, spirituality is more about connecting to something bigger than ourselves than simply believing in a deity. I still find comfort in the Kabbalistic view that we are all waves in the ocean. This is my belief system. We vary as waves in height. We vary in how foamy we are. We vary in how long we exist as a wave. Yet as a wave, as an individual, I am always connected to the water in the ocean. If a wave is taken away from the ocean, it's not even a wave anymore. And when I am a wave and I look out, I can only see part of the world because that's all I can see. But even as I look as a wave, even as I complete being a wave, I am always part of the whole. That is my favorite mystical belief. We are part of the whole. Some say that God is everything. And if God is everything, what does that make us? Part of God. When we say to ourselves, I am not alone, I am connected, that's when we begin the quest we keep talking about in our liturgy. Loneliness is not about being literally alone. We can literally be alone and feel connected, just as we can be in a large group of people and even friends and feel alone. It's about feeling we are part of something bigger than just ourselves. After all, doesn't God say in Genesis, it is not good for human beings to be alone? Are we taking the time to pull ourselves away from the fast-paced American lifestyle to actually breathe and view ourselves as the part of the larger picture that goes back thousands of years? Are we spending not just time, but quality time with our friends and family? Are we really there when we're there? Do we think about our ancestors and how much they gave up for us to be here today? Are we connected to them? As we read in the Talmud, our fate is bound up in each other. Judaism is always about the community. In the Torah, it always speaks in the plural. Where do we find our spontaneous spiritual joy, the excitement that leads us to believe that we matter? And that's essential because Judaism says we all matter at all times in our life. Nelson Mandela, an example to all of us in so many ways, took the last part of every day of his life to contemplate what he had learned that day and to think about his place in the universe every single day. And let me tell you, especially towards the end of his life, he was a very busy man. Some people have a natural spiritual connection beyond compare. Some people are just fortunate. Anybody here seen The Frisco Kid? One of my favorite movies. It's about a Polish rabbi played by Gene Wilder who moves to America to lead a synagogue in San Francisco. He arrives in New York, which is, of course, next to California, and then travels across the country with his bank robber friend, played by, that's right, Harrison Ford. When they meet a tribe of Native Americans, the tribe is very confused by this scroll he holds in his hand. The chief exclaims, "You came for this? I have read this book." Did not understand a single word. What do you call this book? Torah, Torah, Torah. He tries to explain how to say it. And he holds this rabbi over fire and says, "Would you trade your horse for Torah?" "Yes." "Your horse and your boots?" "Yes." "Your clothes?" "Yes." "Everything you own?" "Yes." "Even your knife?" "I don't have a knife." "You have no knife?" "If I give you back Torah, will you purify your soul through fire?" "Yes." "If I let you go, may I keep Torah?" "No." That is the dedication he shows. In the book of Numbers, Moses sends 12 men to scout out the land of Israel. 10 of the 12 come back saying, "We saw people there, and we look like grasshoppers compared to them. We cannot go into the land of Israel." Two of the spies, Joshua and Caleb, say, "They're over-exaggerating the size of the people, plus we have God on our side." But the ancient Israelites sided with the 10 naysayers. And I want this to be very clear about myself. If someone holds me over a fire and threatens to barbecue me over a Torah scroll, I'm going to say, "It's all yours." Enjoy the Torah. Torah, Torah. Also, here's my wallet, my 4-digit passcode, my online passwords. Here's the worst secret about myself that I've never told anybody, even my wife and all of you. Keep it. If I had lived at the time of Moses and I heard 10 of the 12 spies say to me, there are 10 giant football players with swords and spears that want to kill me if I go into the land, what would I have said? Would I have sided with Joshua and Caleb and said, let's do it, we have God on our side? Absolutely not. There is no way. I would have said, I am 5 foot nothing, I weigh 100 and nothing, I'm going to stay right here on the other side of the Jordan River. And yes, that was the speech from the movie Rudy. Our sages teach us now that we don't need to be Moses. We don't need to find the spiritual connection all the time. We don't need to survive a trial by fire. We just need to keep looking. That's all we need to do. And if we're looking, we're doing what we're supposed to do. The former chief rabbi of England, Sir Rabbi Jonathan Sacks, wrote, "The beauty of Jewish spirituality is precisely that in Judaism, God is close. You don't need to climb a mountain or enter an ashram to find the divine presence. I'll add, you don't even need to come to the sanctuary. It's there around the table, at a meal, the light of the Sabbath candles, the reciting of prayers at home, the blessing of having children. It's in the peace of mind that comes when you leave this world to look at yourself after a day and celebrate all the good things that have come from not working, but from resting and being with others. It's not about buying and enjoying the gifts that you have purchased. It's about enjoying the gifts that you've had all along, but sometimes don't have the moment to appreciate them. Faith is a very strange thing. As Jews today, we should be searching, but we shouldn't feel guilty. Although as Jews, we really do feel guilty about everything else, but we shouldn't feel guilty about this. Because if we don't find it in the moment, the search should continue. So as I've spoken about our time in America and how much we've enjoyed our time here, let's continue to thrive in everything we do in America as we have for the past several hundred years. Let's continue to appreciate everything America gives us, but let's remember too that we shouldn't forget the search for our spiritual connection. Amen and Shana Tova.